Potassium is a transport element, catalyst in plant sizing. Lack of potassium will show up in the leaf and the stem, fruit and the stem if the size is not there. Obvious in the size and shape of fruit. The shape of a red delicious apple shows the shape of a potassium deficiency. If you've ever picked a cucumber that was full on one end and pinched on the bottom, that's a potassium deficiency. If you've ever picked a summer squash or zucchini that was full at the stem end and pinched at the bottom, that's a potassium deficiency. If you've ever had your cherry tomatoes get smaller and smaller and smaller through the growing season, that's a potassium deficiency. Your regular tomatoes, if you've had your squashes, winter squashes, your potatoes don't fill out. They don't bulk up like they should. That's a potassium deficiency. Potassium is critical in these things filling out, bulking out. Thin stems, thin calyxes, thin leaves, and small fruit are symptoms of potassium deficiency. In a vine crop, it'll be a light or yellow band around the outside rim of the leaf. Have you ever seen a little yellow band around the outside of a cucumber leaf? It's a potassium deficiency. In tomatoes, bottom leaves that curl up, that turns into early blight, is potassium deficiency. Early blight is a classic disease that I remember since childhood happening every year, where the bottom leaves on tomato plants turn yellow, and they turn brown, and then they fall off. Have you ever seen that one? Mm-hmm. Oftentimes people do this job where they take the plant turns yellow, the bottom leaves turn yellow, and they pull them off. Ever done that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the next leaf turns yellow, and what do? Pull, and then the next leaf. I've got a friend, sweetheart, Italian, grows tomatoes in a soup house. Brought me into a soup house one year, 15-foot tall, amazing cherry tomato plant, butt naked. Pulled off every single leaf. Turn yellow, pull them off. Turn yellow, pull them off. I'm like, Sammy, we've been over this. When the soil dries out, the potassium availability drops off, and the plant sacrifices her body to feed her babies. We talked about this. The leaves turning yellow is not a disease. It's she's hungry and she's sacrificing her body to feed her babies. You've heard about this, right? Potassium deficiency is foundational in a lot of these systemic issues that occur in fruiting plants especially. The best way to get a potassium deficiency is to let your soil dry out. Potassium is an electrolyte. When your soil dries out, the potassium that's available ties back up into the soil colloid. It will only take 2 to 3 months to re-release that potassium once the soil is hydrated again. 2 to 3 months is most of your growing season. Let your soil dry out once, and you're up the creek for the next 2 to 3 months.
Wow.
I keep my drip tape down most of the year. If we get one of those nice dry Aprils, I'm irrigating my unplanted field because I don't want May and June and July to be having potassium deficiencies in my crops. I understand that maintaining hydration through the entire growing season is critical. I want to keep the life in the soil alive even when there's nothing growing. Maintaining hydration is actually a really important thing to do, if nothing else, for your yield. If you're growing anything that bulks out, the yield is, you get paid on weight. Until people learn about quality, you're getting paid on weight. Right? You don't have enough potassium, the crops don't fill out. That's why your crops are pinched and small and don't have the bulk they should have. And in most cases, it's due to a lack of water is the foundational issue, is your potassium deficiency issue. All right.
How dry does it have to get? Is there an easy way to measure that if you're not getting to that point?
My standard for water is, can I put my hand in the soil and pick up a handful of it and feel moisture? Will it hold together? If it doesn't hold together, if I don't feel moisture, it's too dry. I want to maintain hydration in the entire field through the entire growing season. I understand that water is important for life. Right? If the soil does not feel moist, it's not wet. Wait for it. Whoa! If you can't feel moisture, it's not wet. You know this. You were just saying it so I would say it for everybody else.
Not entirely.
You disagree. What's that?
Not entirely.
Not entirely. Just checking to see if you know what you're up to, kid. Magnesium is used to produce chlorophyll, which turns the plant sap a deep true green. High levels of magnesium will cause a very dark plant sap, which shows a healthy plant. If I had squished a leaf and seen that lack of a dark color, magnesium would be the first one I'd go for. First one I'd go for. What happens if you don't have that dark color? means you don't have much chlorophyll. If you don't have much chlorophyll, that means you don't have much sugar being made. If you don't have much sugar being made, then what does that mean? The whole system is starving.
Minerals are shut down.
It doesn't matter what color the leaf is.
Squish the leaf and look at the color of the sap. You want so dark that it looks black.
Of any color leaf.
Full stop. It's the juice in the leaf that you want to be dark. Yes. The leaf, I mean, different plants have different colors of pigments, but the sap, I mean, the chlorophyll is chlorophyll.
Just like
Yeah.
hemoglobin. Or hemoglobin.
Some people are brown, some people are black, some people are yellow, but the blood is still red.
Red.
Hemoglobin, heme, is almost exactly the same molecule as chlorophyll. People know that?
Yep.
You take the iron out and you put the magnesium in, and you've gone from heme to chlorophyll. That's it.
That's why I.
Totally interesting. Totally interesting.
I know, right?
Or you could just stop and go out and talk to your plants, and everything will be fine. Yeah, good. Well, do that more. All right. Magnesium, we've got cobalt, copper, iron, manganese. I don't have much on these. Those who really want to delve deeply into this, I do think that the Mineral Nutrition in Higher Plants is probably the best textbook. It is actually formally a college agronomy textbook on the subject. It's a serious endeavor, but you can use it as a encyclopedia when you got questions. All right. Phases of nutritional need. First phase up to the first blossoming, as the plants are getting established early, it's really important to have a good level of life, building life in the soil. Plants need a highly functioning soil bacterial system to best establish themselves. Soil life needs water and sugar for starters. Dry soil or low brix plants will short-circuit this process. We talked about this. We didn't talk about this. Low brix. If you, what I should have said when I was talking about brix is that your target level of brix in the leaf is 12. You would like this number right here to be 12. The baseline, the lowest point in the day should be 12. Anything below that, and you consider yourself humbled, right? There are many people who feel cocky. Anybody know about these people who are cocky, right? A little bit arrogant, a little bit full of themselves. Anybody who's taken a refractometer out to their garden or to their field, wherever they go, and started taking readings, has probably been humbled by the readings you get. Because 12 is your target, you're like, oh, I might be 9 or 10. No, you're 3 or 4. Right? It's embarrassing, actually, how sickly our plants are. And it's a really wonderful challenge getting those brix readings up. Again, you dehydrate your plants. If they're wilted, you get a false high brix. That doesn't count. A brix of 10 when your plants are wilted is not a high brix reading. So anyways, if you do have low brix readings in your leaves, if it is a cloudy, rainy kind of spring, you understand that the low brix reading means probably the plant's not making as much sugar as it could. The one really easy way to cover for that and to still keep the soil life fed is to take some molasses, take some sugar, and water it through your drip line. To water it through your hose, to irrigate with it. You can really cheat with a little bit of sugar to help stimulate the overall system if it's not working. Ideally, you should be figuring out what's going wrong, why it's not working, and hoping to address that systemically. But a crisis management process is to put some sugar through the line. Absolutely. And if the soil's dry and the soil life is dying off, then you need to irrigate. That's the point I want to make with this slide. Subsequently, as the plant begins to flower and fruit and go through its reproductive phase, the nutritional demands increase. I've got written boron, calcium, manganese, sulfur, phosphorus, magnesium, cobalt are all needed. Really, a full spectrum is quite nice. I like to use the metaphor of giving your kids their vitamins as a excuse to feed my plants on a regular basis. I'm not sure how many people here have children. There's this idea of cod liver oil, there's vitamin C, there's a multivitamin. There's a concept that, our food does not have everything in it that our children need to flourish, and supplementing their diet with supplements is sort of like a good insurance policy. So if you understand that concept, then the question is there any reason why you should not be applying that concept to your plants? And for me, I found that if I do go through the process of giving a prophylactic, multivitamin to my plants on a regular basis, it seems like they do much more well continuously, and I don't really have to be that good of a farmer to get plants that flourish much more readily. Yes,
So you do this in the fall, you remineralize in the fall.
Yes.
And then during the
and
growing
cover
group-
crop, and minimal
yeah,
tillage, and mulching, and
Right.
hydration, and all the other
right,
stuff,
all
yes.
together,
Inoculation.
inoculation.
Don't forget the
I'm
foundational
not
stuff.
gonna do that,
Then
but
you cheat.
sometime during the growing season, you're gonna go back through with these that we just listed.
So you can make yourself a mix of liquids that, a liquid with got all these things in it. You can put a little bit of copper sulfate in, a little bit of magnesium, a little bit of sulfur, a little bit of potassium, and you can put together a multivitamin, or you can buy one off the shelf just as easily, or maybe more easily, and feed it to your plants, you know, a quart per acre or a half a gallon per acre, a pint in a foliar spray. You don't need to put much down. Ideally, you got your biologicals in there too, but really to sort of prophylactically feed your plants for anything that's a high value crop. If you're talking about making thousands of dollars per acre, and it's going to cost you $10 per acre to feed them on a weekly basis, for me, the cost benefit analysis is categorical. I'm so lazy that I don't get around to it most times, but if I ever do feel like pushing the envelope, where I'm like, uh-oh, I got more orders next week than I got production, oh, I better feed my plants a little bit. It doesn't take very long to kick them into gear. The leaves start to look a little bit, you know, not so shiny, starting to get a little bit haggard around the edges. Start feeding your plants, they go right back to shiny. You don't really have to be that good of a farmer, is my experience. It's a good, you know, we'll call it a transition phase. The ideal is that we're moving to a point where we don't need to be adding anything to our land, where the plants are so vigorous that and the soil is in such good shape that you put them in and they grow and everything's fine. That's where we're aiming to be. That's what the Native Americans are doing. That would be proper agriculture. But between here and there, we understand that we're operating in, you know, not optimally functioning environments, and we want to be supporting them and not being too ethically pure necessarily. You know, you just want to actually help grow healthy plants now. I think it's a good idea.
What kind of
So-
foliar sprays?
What kind of foliar sprays? I don't usually talk about products, but I've already violated my.
Go ahead, Miley.
I've already crossed the line. You know, at this point, it's like I'm already cheating. I might as well cheat all the way here and get it over with. Jerry Brunetti has put together a really nice suite of liquids that there's one called Plant Sure, which is a mix of the calcium and the potassium and the phosphorus and the magnesium and the trace elements and the, you know, everything. So I use that basically as a general purpose prophylactic. Well, yeah. I mean, depending on how responsible I'm being, I won't do it for 2.5 months, or I'll do it on a weekly basis. When people come to me and say, Dan, I don't want to take the course, just tell me what to do. I give them that basic fertilizer, I give them an inoculant, and I give them the Plant Sure, and I say, you know, 50 pounds per 1,000 square feet of the basic fertilizer. You know, we do, you know, heavy duty dose if you're operating on a small garden is like a cup per 1,000 square feet of concentrate. Like, do that on a weekly basis, and up they go, and off they take off. These people come back. People get really worked up when they get like 5-pound, you know, sweet potatoes and, you know, 85 pounds of tomatoes on a plant. You know, they get really excited. They just get really, really excited. They come back and they're just like so joyful. It makes me feel good. Anyways, it's cheating, right? You don't really need to know what you're doing, but if you feed the plants well, they grow vigorously. And there's one guy from Connecticut last year. He just was so excited. He said he'd gotten 55 or 60 pounds of fruit off each tomato plant, and he had another 20 or 30 pounds on the plants when the frost killed them in October. And he was working in, you know, land that would have been previously very much of a very sandy, light kind of a soil. So he was, yeah, whatever. I got thousands of stories, but the idea is basically establishing good environmental conditions. You want to be working on these systemic pieces of the puzzle, but then in season, if you feed your plants, it's really helpful. Depending on your economics, depending on what kind of, you know, amount of money you want to spend per acre, what kind of money you can earn per acre, you know, every dollar spent should give you $10 in return, or something along those lines. It should be something along those lines, or maybe more. Root and top balance, we talked about. Conductivity, we talked about. Bricks, we talked about. The only thing I didn't say about bricks was that when you're taking your bricks, regular bricks readings on the leaf, you always want to take it in the same part of the plant, not the top of the plant 1 week, bottom of the plant the next week. I've got written here 4th newest leaf, which is ideally like the first fully formed leaf, the newest fully formed leaf. Same time of the day, same part of the plant. Framing and fruiting, yield potential. So this is basically arguing for the saturated paste test, these next few slides. The idea here is basically that you can test the soil in season to see what's available and what's not. We talked about the base test yesterday, which was the what's not present in the soil. This test is what's available and what's not. So I like to use the metaphor of the savings account versus the checking account. Yesterday's report conversation was about the savings account. This one is about the checking account. You may have calcium in the soil, but it's not available, so it doesn't really matter if it's present. The question is what's available. So if you are the kind of person who wants to be using tests and labs and reports, the saturated paste test is the other box you can check on the Logan test, which will tell you what's available right now in season. And I've got the metrics on the top of page 9. It's not, it's a weak acid soil test.
Oh,
It's telling you what's available right now to go into the plant, which should correlate with your SAP test in a week.
And they can't just do it in water, to do it in a
It might be a water test. I'm not sure how they do it. Saturated paste test target levels are on the top of page 9. Simple solutions slide is telling you that if you do foliar sprays and drenches on a regular basis, things are likely to do better. And the biological process slide is a reminder of what we talked about yesterday, which was the correlation between the complexing of compounds and pest and disease resistance in the plants. And this biology chemistry is where I like to start my last section of the day. You guys up for a quick break?
Quick question. So, all
Quick
right.
question.
So the soil, the first page
Yes.
tells you what versus what the saturated paste test tells
The first page, the one we talked about yesterday,
Yeah.
tells you what is and what is not present in the soil.
Okay.
The other one tells you what's available to the plant right now. So that doesn't really matter right now because you don't have anything growing.
Right.
So you want to do that, 2 or 3 weeks after you put the plants in the ground, as they're about to, bulk up.
Gotcha.
That's the time of the year when you want to say, what's not available because my plants are about to hit puberty and I want them to build strong adult bones.
Just wanting to add that.
What can I amend with to help address deficiencies?
And we're also going to learn something about the biological community through that, right? So
It's not a biological assay, it's a mineralogical
I know,
assay.
but through reasoning.
If you're in,
Because you put the
if you
two
like
tests
logic,
in conversation,
yes.
and if you know the biology, like
Yes.
my teachers have pounded biology into me,
yes.
and I ran that as far as it goes, and that's why I'm here.
This one over here has the same problem, yeah.
Oh, I solved that problem in 2008. I've been doing the minerals and biology.
Started using
2009,
minerals.
yeah. I only spent about a year doing all 1,500 acres before I figured it out. It was still a year of my life.
Yes.
A lot of repetition.
And thousands of dollars in tests,
And then I met
too, I
somebody
think.
to help me.
Yeah.
He was doing the biology and minerals too.
Microbes and minerals, M&Ms.
Yeah.
M&Ms, yeah. Quick break?